We've had 7 talks, and this will be the 5th dialogue, discussion, conversation. I think during these talks and discussions, we have touched most of the points of human relationship, our existence, our way of thinking, looking, and if one may ask, one wonders how or to what extent we have changed. If we are at all familiar with our prejudices, and if we are, what do we do about them? Hold on to them or let them go? Or if you find yourself attached to somebody, to some ideals, to some belief, if you're at all aware and familiar with your attachment, how far one has let them go, knowing all attachment leads to a great deal of sorrow and pain and all the rest of it, which we went into. And also, if one is aggressive, as most human beings are, some more and some very little, if we have, during these talks and discussions or dialogues and conversations together, if we are free, or if we are aware and know how deeply we are attached, how deeply we are aggressive, and whether we have changed at all. And if we are familiar with your prides, vanities, and habits, how deeply are we free of them? Or we carry them on for another year, or for many years, and never are aware of our own peculiarities and idiosyncrasies, our aggressions, our attachments, our prejudices, fears, and so on. Then we live merely on words. And words are rather, they are ashes. And if you like to live with ashes, not as monks, but just live with words, then I'm afraid one lives very superficially and with very little meaning. So as this is the last discussion, what shall we talk over together this morning?
We talked about what you mean by bringing order into one's life.
Could you kindly talk about order and what you mean by it? Not what I mean by it, what do we mean by it?
As we talked yesterday, of the ending of thought is the free energy, the very essence of the image, which is the content of thought. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir. What's the question?
The question is the energy which gets free if thought is ended, if this energy is the very essence of the content, that means the image that thought makes.
No, sir, no, no. No, I'm afraid we misunderstood each other. We said yesterday, going over the whole movement of thought, what is the origin of thought? The origin being the registration of an event, of an experience, of a pain, of a grief, and so on. The registration which takes place in the brain, and from that memory, thought arises. That's clear. Then that thought creates the image, and all that energy is limited, conditioned, held within a very narrow space. And we said, when we understand the whole structure and the nature of thought, then thought itself finds its own limitation and therefore releases that energy which has been canalized along a narrow groove. We explained that very carefully. We went into it.
Yesterday you said the brain is collective. Thousands of years ago. Whether that statement is true or false, I really don't know. But I'm deeply concerned with what is going on in the world. And I do not see how putting everybody into the same basket is going to bring about love and compassion.
Into the same boxes?
In the same basket. Well, everybody together.
Oh, Lord. No, we are not putting, I bet. I do not, questioner says, I do not know how love and compassion can come about if we put every human being into the same basket. I'm afraid we never said that, nor implied. So we'll discuss what you want to discuss, talk over.
We see the man, but we don't see humanity. Is humanity the essence, the truth of man? And can we speak about humanity?
Can we seek about...
Can we speak about the essence of man, that humanity that we don't see? We see the man, but
we don't see the essence of man, but we only see the man. Now, which of these shall we discuss? Would it be worthwhile to talk over together this question of order? Could we? Would it be worthwhile to discuss that? First of all, what do we mean by that word, order? What does that convey to each one? What is, when you hear that word, order, what do we mean by it? What is your feeling, your response, your instinctual answer? Order, according to the totalitarian people, is to obey the few and conform to a certain pattern they have established. I'm putting it in a most simplistic terms, but that's good enough to understand what we mean when we are examining the word order. That's what they mean. There will be no dissent. We all think alike. We all work for the state, whatever the state may mean, which is according to Lenin, Marx, and so on, so on. And so, anybody who deviates is called dissident and destroyed. That's one kind of order. We're going to question it. Then there has been Victorian order, if I can use the word Victorian in the sense about the end of 19th century. Yes, end of 19th century, which meant keep everything outside orderly, but inward you might have chaos, mess, misery, but outwardly show that you're very orderly. In response to that, in opposition to that, we have cultivated quite recently permissiveness. Do anything you like. Right? To the man or woman who is living in the permissive society, order is abomination. And the man or the woman who lives in the Victorian era, order is control, don't express your emotions, hold back, restrain, and you have the totalitarian order. Right? These are very simple facts. These are daily facts of life. And inwardly, outwardly they say we must have order. Inwardly, we are very disorderly. Right? Would you say we are or we are not? Disorderly means contradiction, confusion, giving importance to one thing in opposition to other things. Sex becomes enormously important, and perhaps that's the only important thing, and the rest you put it aside or delegate it to a secondary place. And inwardly, there's constant struggle, battle, all that is disorder, right? Is this obviously clear? Now, what makes for disorder, both outwardly and inwardly? And do we know or aware or familiar or cognizant that we live in disorder? Outwardly, there is disorder when there is war. That is total disorder. That is total terrorism. Organized, blessed by the priests, right? And respectable. That is, total terrorism is obviously a disorder, but it's respectable disorder, recognized by every human being as something necessary. And there is disorder when there are nationalities and all the rest of it. So outwardly there is disorder, and inwardly there is disorder. Right? How much are we familiar with our disorder inwardly? We know, we are familiar when we read the newspapers, magazines, and so on, that there is this monstrous disorder. Now, it's much more arduous or one has not given attention to be acquainted with our inner disorder. Right? Now, I'm asking myself, and you're asking, what is the root of this disorder? Why do we live this way? For God's sake, if there's God, you understand? Why do we live like this? Why do we tolerate it? Just a minute. Why do we accept it? There is disorder between man and woman in their relationship, however intimate, however pleasant, however comforting, however satisfying, and so on, so on, so on. There's constant struggle between man and woman in their relationship, which is disorder. Right? Now, Bipon?
It's not necessary.
Bipon?
It isn't always so.
It is always,
It is not.
or it is not always so. There may be exceptions, granted. One or two or half a dozen or few people in the world may have marvelous relationship with each other, but appalling, frightening relationship with the world. I said maybe. So, are we first of all familiar with this? We are outwardly and inwardly. Are we inwardly familiar, know, aware, cognizant, see or observe that we live in disorder? Exceptions, there may be lady and few others. If we are not aware that we live in disorder, who is going to tell you that you are living in disorder? Nobody cares. On the contrary, they want you to live in disorder. Right? It's profitable for the society, for the business, and all the rest of it, that you live in disorder. Because the moment you have order in yourself, you become, come on? Yeah, un pericolo. You become a danger. So please, if we want to discuss this, have a conversation, go with each other and go into this matter of order, please find out for yourself whether you are familiar, know, aware, cognizant with your way of life inwardly, find out whether it's orderly or disorderly. Orderly may mean conforming to a pattern. Right? Conforming to a tradition. That is generally called orderly. Conforming to what the religious people have said, the monks, the gurus, the teachers, the so-called sacred books. If you follow those and conform to those, you say, I'm living orderly. Does conformity bring about order? Or it is the very root of disorder? One conforms when one puts on trousers and shirt in this country, in Europe. When one goes to India, one puts on different clothes. That's not conformity. We are talking of conformity psychologically, inwardly. Do we conform? Does one know realize that you're conforming.
So can we see that the cause of disorder are the same that the cause of deterioration?
Yes, sir. No, don't forget what we talked about, deterioration. Don't bring it in because that you're going back to the same old pattern. First of all, do you know, you are aware for yourself that you are conforming? To the idea of marriage and not married, both the same. You may live with a girl or a boy and say we are not conforming. But those who are married, are they also conforming? Because they sign a paper or something or other. You follow? You have to be cognizant, aware whether you are conforming.
Isn't any idea and any thought a sort of confirmation? Because if a thought is repeating,
Sir, don't bring in little more complex. We'll go further, deeper into. Begin with this. Am I or you conforming to a pattern? Whether established by a society or whether I have established it for myself, it is still conforming. You understand? I may reject the outward authority altogether, but inwardly I have the authority of my experience, of my knowledge, and to that I conform, and that is also conformity. So, are you aware of this fact for oneself? If you are not, then there is, who is going to awaken you? Who is going to put pressure on you so that you say, yes, I'm in disorder, I found out. Because through pressure, you won't find out. It's the pressure from outside that makes you conform or not conform. So, if one may ask again, if you are asking yourself, are you psychologically in any way conforming? So, this is one of the most subtle and important points if you go into it very deeply. You have to conform to certain laws. You have to drive on the right side in Europe, and in England, left side. You say, I'm not going to conform and drive on the right side. The policeman will be after you. The cop will come and tell you, please drive on the left side. So, I'm asking, please ask yourself whether you're conforming to tradition, to your aggressive, violent responses. Are you conforming to all that? You see how difficult, what a tremendous problem this is. And if you are imitating, not outwardly, I'm not talking the outward imitation of long hair, short hair, beards or no beards and all the rest of it, but inwardly, psychologically, imitating. Will you take time one afternoon or one evening or sometime during the day to look at yourself? right? This is what you're doing now. That you are, if I may most respectfully point out, you are looking at yourself and discovering for yourself whether you are conforming, imitating, and if you are conforming to a certain pattern, another conforms to another pattern, so there is conflict between the two, and so disorder. Right? Then if you are aware, know, realize, see that you are in disorder, will you remain with it? You understand? Not try to change it. Not try to say, this is, I must go beyond it, I must suppress it, I must understand it, I must rationalize it, but just holding it in your arms, as it were, without any movement. The baby is asleep in your arm. The moment you move, she wakes up and cries. You understand? I wonder if I'm making myself clear. Am I? Huh? So that's the point. Will one comprehend and bring about order in one's life by rules, by discipline, by control, by suppression, or will you observe in yourself disorder and not run away from it, not translate it into your own idiosyncrasies, temperament, and aggression, but merely look at it, observe it, watch it. We said, if you have followed, if I may go on with it, we said yesterday, or one of these discussions or talks, that the word art means to put things in their proper place. Right? In their proper place, not giving one or the other importance. If you give importance to technology, then other ways of existence is not on the same level. Therefore, there is disharmony. If you give sex, as most people do, except perhaps there are exceptions, the most important, the highest, all-consuming importance, the only thing that matters in life, then again, you exaggerate and bring about disharmony. If you put money as all important, again, contradiction takes place. Or if you say power, domination is all important, again, therefore, to live harmoniously means to put everything in their proper place. Will you do it? Or you just les mots en l'air? Will you do this? Just a minute. Will you do this? not give your body the tremendous importance the West gives, the Western world, how they look, how they dress. You follow? This tremendous concern. Which doesn't mean you mustn't dress properly, decently, and all the rest of it. Will you do all this? If you don't, why do you talk about order? There's no point at all. But if one wants to live in order, and therefore live in harmony, with a sense of great beauty, perhaps also peace, then you must have order. Order isn't to go from window to window, window shopping. You understand the phrase window shopping? Never buy anything, but go from, you follow, shop to shop. And you think that is extraordinarily wide mind. Go from one book to another, one teacher to another, one guru to another, one priest to another, one philosopher. You follow? Never, never, never staying in one place and finding out. Why do people do that? Have you ever wondered? They go to India, they're fed up with their priests here, so perhaps there is something there, and that is romantic, all that nonsense. And this is called gathering knowledge, or this is called an open mind. It isn't really an open mind, it's a big sieve with a large hole, with nothing holes in it. We are doing this all the time in different ways. So we are asking, are you serious enough, committed enough, dedicated enough to live a life of total order? Come on.
Seems easier to live in disorder.
I can't hear.
Seems easier.
Come on. I can't hear. What's that? It's much easier to live in disorder. Is it?
You haven't realized that at all.
Come on. What?
They have not realized at all what is disorder if they like to live in disorder.
Please, just for an hour this morning, let's find out for ourselves if we like to live in disorder. Apparently most people do. Disorder in their room and so on. If they like it, that's one matter. There's nothing to be said about it. But if you say that living in disorder brings about havoc in one's life, misery, confusion, violence and all the rest of it, then obviously one must become aware, cognizant, know, familiar with one's disorder. Do it at least for an hour, or half an hour that we have left, or three-quarters an hour, while you are sitting here quietly talking over. Find out. Not as a group therapy, which is too silly, but, sitting quietly to find out, to become familiar with oneself. If you find that you live in disorder, discover it for yourself, then what is one to do? Right? You understand? Right, sir? To find out what to do or what not to do, one has to go into the question, what is the very root of disorder? What is the very root that produces all this confusion, conflict, misery? You follow? Total disorder in the way we live. What's the root of it? Don't say it's me or the ego or just our words or thought, but to find out, you follow, for oneself.
We accept the terror of the majority, traveling around the world, seeing disorder, they shout out of inner fire, of anger, of compassion. They get mule kicks into my face, and even compliments, saying you are even worse than Krishnamurti, whatever it means.
So,
What do I suppose to
throw out all that. Throw out Krishnamurti and all that nonsense and find out for yourself. I'm really not interested in myself. I'm too old for all that kind of childish stuff.
That we do not care from the others, that would be the source of disorder.
Come on.
That we do not care for others.
We do not care for others.
Come on.
She's saying we do not care for others.
What?
She's saying we do not care for others.
We do not care for others? We are talking about disorder, madam.
That brings disorder. C'est la raison du désordre.
Hein?
La raison du désordre.
La raison de désordre. Bien. What is the reason for disorder? That's what I'm asking. What is the reason, the source, the essence of disorder? Just a minute. Don't quote anybody, including myself. Just a minute. Because if you do, you're just telling or answering, saying something which others have said. So throw out what others have said, including this person. Don't belong to Krishnamurti. That would be fatal. Don't form Krishnamurti groups, for God's sake. No, so just a minute. That I know. Just so for God's sake, give time to this. What is the root of disorder? Anything that is limited, you understand? Anything that functions within a very narrow space must create disorder. If I love you as one human being and hate others, it must create disorder, right? If I'm attached to you and I don't care for the world at all, as long as you and I are perfectly happy in our little home, so we are discovering something. And that is, anything that acts, lives in a very small space, in a very small shell, or the shell being enormous, it is still limited. Anything that moves, functions, and acts within a narrow space must create disorder. If I belong to that guru, and not to any guru, or not to other gurus, then I'm acting very limited, right? Obvious. But if I have no gurus at all, I don't follow anybody at all, then I may act widely. So I'm asking you, is disorder brought about by a limited way of life? My husband and nobody else. I say, I must be kind, I must be generous, I must be compassionate, I must love others, but they're all, you follow, just words. Because my whole center is around one person or one thing. That may be bring about disorder. So I have found that any action which is limited must create disorder. That is, if I act as a naturalist, it is disorder. If I act as a Catholic, as a Protestant, Hindu, Buddhist, and all the rest of that, it is disorder. Now, have you looked at yourself, become familiar with yourself, and say, no, sir, that is so, I will drop them. Finished. If you are interested in finding out what is order, then everything that creates disorder is dropped away instantly. Like a scientist involved in research, that is the central thing he is concerned about. The rest things are secondary, but that is the main thing. He is giving his whole life to it. So can you find out for yourself if you are acting, living in a small circle?
Do you think it is so easy to change oneself?
Come on.
Do you think it is so easy to change oneself? You have the insight, there is disorder, this is the reason, and all
Wait,
the next
sir,
day
I understand.
you live like that.
Is it so easy to change oneself? Right? That's the central question. Just a minute, sir. Is it, sorry, I know you, I forgot. I apologize. Is it so easy to change oneself? I say yes. Don't believe it. Because you're not going to change so easily. But if you see the danger, you understand? Right, sir? Real danger. As you see the danger of a precipice, you act. But you don't see the danger of a limited action. Limited way of living, which is, I'm attached to you and your mind, for God's sake, let's live together peacefully, don't let's quarrel, you follow? And let's forget the world. The world is ugly, I have to go out to the world and earn money and all that, but we two are together. This becomes too child.
Isn't there actually nothing else but order? And this order is, if I catch something out of this flow of order, so...
No, sir, there is no flow of order. I know, that's just an imagination, that there is supreme order, which is God, heaven.
I mean, the order is everything in itself, as is the order in the thing itself. And if I understand, if there is an understanding of all the things around,
Then there is order. When you understand the danger of disorder in life, which is expressed in different ways, conformity, living in a narrow little groove. That groove may be very wide, but it's still narrow. If you see all that, not as verbally, intellectual, but actually the danger of it is finished. There is order.
I think it is not so easy to change oneself, because if I only have the inside,
What?
I have the inside now. I realize it is dangerous. And then I go back to the city, I go back to my friends, and I forget it.
The city, the business, the wife, the husband are the most dangerous things. Because all that involves attachment. You understand? Danger. Wait a minute. It doesn't mean you can't be married or have a girl or all the rest of it. But see, please, sir, don't see the danger of living as we are in a narrow, small, little circle. Right? You know, sir, Sarnen, this little village, they speak German. You go 2 miles away, they speak French. And those French people won't meet each other. You follow? They keep themselves into a very small little circle. Now, we are doing the same. Do you actually see the danger of that way of living? That's all. If you don't see it, how is one going to make you see it, help you to see it? Wait a minute. I don't see the danger of conformity to a tradition, to a pattern, whether external or inward. I don't see that causes disorder. You've explained to me in 10 different ways. I refuse to see it. You understand? Because it's very disturbing. When I'm accustomed to live in a disorderly way, and you're asking me to look at it, it frightens me. I'm appalled by it. If you talk to those people who have lived in the totalitarian states, they say, yes, we have got used to it. Right? Come on. How do you know, madam? One or two are dissenting. For God. One or two, there are exceptions. there are one or two dissidents who are sent away to camps, to mental hospitals and all the horror that they do. But majority of them, apparently, I'm telling you, because I've talked to many of them, they say, we've got used to it. You have got used to disorder. You have got used to wars. You've got used to quarreling with your wife and husband. So you've got used to this, living in this chaos. You know, sir, very interesting something. Cosmos means order. The word cosmos. And the universe is in order, is complete order. And we live in disorder and try to understand cosmos, the universe. I wonder if you're following what I'm talking about. No, I don't. How can I understand something that is total order without a break in it, when I myself am living in disorder? I can't. So I'm not concerned with order. I am concerned with disorder. And to say, now I'm going to find out how to dissolve that disorder. I'm going to find out, I'm going to give my life. You follow, it's important. And I see various causes that bring about disorder. That's enough. Then I say, all right, I'm so interested, so passionately concerned with order. So I begin with the disorder and find out what are the causes. And then it's simple. That is, my whole concern is to live in order. As I don't know it, so I go back and find out. You follow? I spend time, energy, inquiry into it. Don't catch my enthusiasm or my interest, my passion. Don't catch it, because it isn't yours.
But you see, I'm weak. I don't have much strength. I tried one time. I find a reason of disorder, which I somehow don't want to lose. So I stop there. Maybe. Or I forget about thinking.
All right, so. So in other words, you like to live in disorder. I'm not condemning it. I'm saying that's what happens.
Can we say that order is inherently there and it's our limitation?
Order is inherently in human beings, and it's only thought that brings disorder. You follow? This is an old statement of all the religious people. There is order, God is order, heaven is order, I am born of heaven. You follow? That little spark is in me, that will someday blossom and destroy disorder. This we have played this game for a million years. See how our mind works? Which is tradition, you follow?
Would you say that there is more order in your schools?
And please, sir, you see what he's going off? You see what he's gone off to the schools with which I'm connected. He's not inquiring if he lives in disorder. He wants to find out if the schools are in disorder. You see the escape? No, it's not, sir. It is not. I am not interested in this. Forgive me.
It's a very serious problem
Sir, please, sir.
and working in
You see?
these schools, and they are dependent on your, let's say, order in order to make the school function. That's a very serious problem.
Oh no. Nobody is concerned about the school here for the moment, or the teachers. We are concerned about disorder in each of us. Don't go, please, sir.
It is part of a disorder.
What?
Perhaps your commitment
What?
is part of disorder.
किसकी?
I think he's saying that your commitment to the schools is part of disorder.
Perhaps, I said perhaps.
This is what happens when you discuss with people who are off to something else.
Well, either you are trying to hypnotize us according to, let's say, your system of getting into your kind of order. If we want to find out order, we have to do it according to ourselves. Now, I find it very difficult to accept anything you say. And sometimes I doubt very seriously that you are a complete, orderly human being. Sometimes you make mistakes, and I
Sir,
find it difficult
sir,
to
all right.
accept that you are
All right, sir.
perfect.
I would suggest that you hire a hall and talk.
You can't take a question, isn't this a...
Écoutez-moi. Yes, that's right. Quelle heure est-il?
25 after 11.
We have talked nearly an hour, almost an hour. Where are we? You have a good example of disorder, lady says. A person who goes off talking about something else and is not concerned about disorder in himself. I'm not saying you are in disorder or in order, but find out for oneself if you live in disorder. Not a la Krishnamurti. Sir, will you give 10 minutes to find out for yourself? You're here. Perhaps some of you are glad that I don't bombard you anymore. But for 10 minutes, can you find out for yourself whether you live in order or disorder? Understanding what disorder is, and not introducing order as a means of pursuing a conformity. I've explained all that. Can we spend 10 minutes seriously together to find out if you and I live in disorder? This disorder is prejudice. This disorder is caused by conformity, psychologically, which is to follow tradition, pattern, obedience. And the opposite, not to follow the reaction, which is still conformity. And so on. And what is the root of this disorder? We said the root may be acting, thinking in a very small, enclosed area, psychologically. You may travel all over the world, but inwardly, psychologically, one may live with a very, very small space. Or extend that space, say, I must have an open mind, think, look at everything, and from that hoping to act, and all that. So can you, during these 10 minutes, give your energy to find out if you live in disorder and the cause of it. Please don't go off into meditation. It is there for you to look. If you find it is so, that you conform, that you're acting in a very, very small, narrow circle, then can you look at it, observe it, and not try to do something about it? As we said the other day, when the scientists, good scientists, the first class, top people, when they look through a microscope at a cell or whatever they're looking at, if they come with a hypothesis, with a prejudice, with a desire to understand it, they are projecting their ideas onto it. So they don't see the thing itself. So they have discovered that if you observe without any prejudice, in quotes, the thing itself begins to move, transform itself. You understand what I'm saying? So can you, in the same way, look without any reaction to what you're looking at? That is, observing disorder, the cause of it, looking at it. Not you want to transcend it, go beyond it, suppress it, run away, or say this is all right, nothing. Just to look. Then if you so look, then the thing that which you are looking begins to transform itself. The transformation of itself is order. No, attendez.
Yeah, I don't know whether that is a kind of pleasure also for you.
Oh, man. It's not pleasure for me, madam.
I'm not so sure.
All right, you're not so sure. All right. See. Vous avez compris? So will you listen, please? I want to tell you something. Now, something. Just listen for the fun of it. When you observe something without the past, without the prejudice, without anything, the very thing that you're looking is living, moving, changing. And therefore, it's never still. Therefore, disorder is always still. Still in the sense, it is disorder all the time. You follow what I'm saying? But if you watch it, that disorder is in itself is transforming, becoming something else. So are you watching it that way? What, sir?
Recognition involved in this watching.
Huh?
The recognition involved in this watching. Is recognition involved in this watching?
It is not recognition. Oh my. I said, if you recognize it, it's memory. If you say, yes, that is disorder, I'm going to watch it, you have a memory of disorder, an idea of disorder, a concept, a formula, and so on of disorder, and with those concepts you are looking. Then you are looking at disorder extensively. But if you look without remembrance, without saying that is disorder, but look like a scientist who says, I want to see what is happening there. I don't want to bring to it what I think should happen there. I don't know if the scientists do it, but I'm saying I hope they do. Then that very thing that you're observing undergoes a tremendous transformation.
If there is looking without memory, isn't there no seeing of movement? Because
There is no movement, but only observation.
because movement, recognition of movement would be memory already.
Yes. Will you do all this? Test it out? Actually in daily life. That is the art of living, which is having put everything in its right place. Then there is no disorder. But if you put everything in its right place because it's convenient, because you think you will save energy, because you think you will have order, then you are creating disorder. Right? Finito.